Truth in the Afternoon with Dr. Ken Harris on 1017 The Truth and The Truth app.
Now, he's the mayor of the city of Milwaukee. He's a young man. Give him a chance. I only complain about things that I care about. What I want you to do is pretend like I'm in St. Louis. And all I'm asking the mayor and the county council president and the county council, show me.
Now, live from the American Family Insurance Studio in Milwaukee, here is Dr. Ken Harris.
You're listening to Truth in the Afternoon. I'm your host, Dr. Ken Harris. It is 4 minutes after the hour on Election Day. And I don't think anybody. Did anybody vote? Did you vote? Should I get him? Because I'm like, but that's not answering my question. Did you vote? Okay, don't answer that question. Because I'm taking that as a resounding no. Oh, there you go. That's what I'm talking about. Voting is important. Only this is me speaking. I'm not speaking. The views expressed on the following program are those of Dr. Ken Harris, and he doesn't care whether or not anybody likes it or thinks it's right or not. Okay, we're done. So here's the deal. Voting is a right. It's not a privilege. Or is it? It can be taken away. You go to jail, go to prison, be on paper, as in probation or paroled for a certain period of time. And guess what? Guess what? You can't vote. I heard that all the way in here. I heard that all the way. You really have been here since last Thursday. So he was in there yawning. I'm like, what was that? Like, are the walls falling in? Is it an earthquake? And I understand voting is important, but your choice to not vote, you still pay taxes. So what rights do you really lose by not voting other than to complain about the person in office or the person that's not in office? Is voting important? Absolutely. People died for you to have the right to vote. But you get to decide as an American whether or not you feel like voting or not. And the two can be mutually exclusive. You can decide to vote or not to vote, and you can decide to exercise your rights, not exercise your rights, and you should be okay with both. But if you disagree, that's okay too. I understand completely. I understand that you may have forgotten the importance of being first. And so this is what I want. Anyone who is not Black to understand. Voting is important for Black people because we were denied the right. When we say that, don't bring up women. Don't bring up women's suffrage. I don't care. You have the right now, right? I'm telling you what you tell us when we talk about slavery. That was in the past. You should be forgiven. Yes, we forgive. We don't forget. Voting is important, just as important as breathing. And it sounds contradictory. I know it sounds contradictory, but in the end, you have to remember that it is your constitutional right to decide whether or not you want to vote or not vote. Would you prefer somebody came up and put a gun to your head and said, if you don't vote, we're going to harm you? Or made you go to the polls or beat you if you didn't vote? Imagine what the world would be if we beat people if they didn't vote. Like, can you imagine that? If we actually beat people and say, hey, you didn't vote, we're going to beat you. You think voting would be different? A lot of write-in candidates. In 1835, the first documented, and this is why documentation is so important. And I'm calling out all organizations, but especially Black and African-American organizations. This is why documentation is the most important thing you can do for your organization. Make sure the minutes are not written lazily, but thoroughly, concisely. Why? In 1835, the first documented Black Milwaukee resident settled in the city. Did you know that? 1835. He was a cook for Milwaukee's first mayor, Solomon Juneau. That even back then, what's that? 1776 plus 30, 60 some odd years later, we were a cook for Milwaukee's first mayor, Solomon Juneau. September 17th, 1835, and this is why this is important for Black History Month, and this is why this is important for you to remember. And before I go into that, I first have to say thank you, because there is so much information that you can find and that you can go through. And I have to say thank you to Dr. Clark, Camelia Clark, who put me onto this. On September 17th, 1835, this man became the first Black man to vote in Milwaukee's what election? The first election. Remember that. September 17th, 1835, he became the first Black man to vote in Milwaukee's first election. During a time when Black people were not even allowed to vote. They were still in slavery. And the northern cities still upheld significant segregation, turned people back over to slave masters. So the next time you complain about voting and complain about it and complain what we don't have, here's a man who people in Milwaukee need to understand and should recognize. His name is actually worth knowing. First Black man to settle in Milwaukee, first Black man to vote in Milwaukee, and he voted in the first election. Can you say Joe Oliver?
And that is Dr. Ken's Truth on the new 1017 The Truth, Milwaukee's new favorite station.
Can I ask you a question? No, actually you can't, because that was the question. You asked it, so.
Coming with straight truth.
People actually think because they don't have money, they don't have power. But if you vote, you have power. If you don't vote, you still have power because you pay taxes.
Bringing all the smoke to you.
That's why I say stop listening to the I Have a Dream speech or the fake Barack Obama accent and look at the results.
Listen to the new 1017 The Truth by downloading the Truth app today. Milwaukee's new favorite station.
Can I ask you a question? No, actually you can't, because that was the question. You asked it, so.
Coming with straight truth.
People actually think because they don't have money, they don't have power. But if you vote, you have power. If you don't vote, you still have power because you pay taxes.
Bringing all the smoke to you.
That's why